Hi, my name is Wayne Dyer.
There is a quiet law of life that operates long before we learn its name. It moves beneath every experience you have ever had, shaping the direction of your days, arranging encounters, opening doors, and sometimes gently closing them when they no longer serve the unfolding of your soul. This law does not shout, it does not argue, it simply responds. And what it responds to most faithfully is the direction of your focus. Where your attention goes, energy begins to flow. And where energy flows, life begins to organize itself in remarkable ways. Most people spend their lives believing the world outside them is the primary force shaping their experience. They imagine that circumstances create their feelings, that other people determine their peace, that the future is something unpredictable that happens to them rather than something that grows from within them. But there comes a moment in every awakening soul's journey when this belief begins to soften. A moment when you start to realize that life is not simply happening around you. Life is responding to you, not to the mask you show the world, not to the words you say out loud, but to the deeper current of energy that flows through your thoughts, your expectations, and the images you quietly hold in your mind. Imagine for a moment that your mind is not merely a place where thoughts pass through, but a kind of broadcast station. Every thought you hold consistently sends a signal outward into the invisible fabric of existence. The universe, vast and intelligent beyond comprehension, does not judge the signal. It does not debate whether the signal is worthy. It simply begins arranging circumstances that match the frequency you are transmitting. If you focus your mind on fear, the universe begins organizing experiences that reflect fear. If you focus your mind on limitation, the universe begins echoing back situations that reinforce limitation. But when you shift your focus toward possibility, toward love, toward gratitude, something extraordinary begins to happen. The universe leans in. It begins to cooperate with your intention. This is not magic in the childish sense. It is alignment. Every great spiritual teacher who has walked this earth has hinted at this truth in one form or another. They spoke of faith, of intention, of prayer, of vision. Different words pointing toward the same underlying principle. What lives consistently within the mind eventually shapes the landscape of reality. But here is where many people misunderstand this teaching. They believe that focusing on something simply means wanting it. Yet desire alone does not create alignment. You can want abundance while constantly focusing on scarcity. You can want love while constantly focusing on past hurt. You can want peace while constantly focusing on what is wrong with the world. And when this happens, the universe responds not to your wish, but to your focus. This is why the practice of awareness becomes so important. Because awareness is the moment you step back from the endless stream of thoughts and begin asking a simple but powerful question. What am I focusing on right now? Is my attention feeding the life I want to experience, or is it unconsciously recreating the life I say I want to escape? Your mind is incredibly creative, but it is also deeply habitual. It returns again and again to familiar emotional landscapes, replaying old stories, rehearsing old disappointments, reinforcing identities that may have formed decades ago. Perhaps you learned early in life that success was difficult. Perhaps you absorbed the belief that you were not good enough. Perhaps you were told that life is a struggle and that happiness must always be chased. These beliefs, when repeated often enough, become lenses through which you see the world. And once the lens is in place, the mind begins selecting evidence that confirms it. But here is the quiet miracle hidden within your consciousness. You are not required to keep those lenses. You have the ability, in this very moment, to choose a different focus. And when you choose a different focus, you begin to enter a different relationship with the universe itself. The universe is not a distant mechanical system indifferent to your existence. It is more like an infinite field of responsive intelligence. It listens constantly, not to your words, but to your vibration. And vibration is shaped by attention. What you think about repeatedly begins to shape how you feel. How you feel begins to shape the energy you carry. And the energy you carry begins to shape what you attract. This is why two people can walk through the same world and experience entirely different realities. One person sees obstacles everywhere, another sees opportunities. One person sees rejection, another sees redirection. The external environment may be identical, yet the internal focus creates two entirely different lives. You might ask yourself, if this principle is so powerful, why does it seem that many people focus on good things yet still experience difficulty? The answer lies in depth. Surface thoughts are easy to change, but deeper beliefs often remain hidden beneath them. If you repeat positive affirmations while secretly believing the opposite, the deeper belief will continue broadcasting its signal. This is why true transformation requires honesty. You must be willing to look within and notice what stories you have been carrying, not with judgment, not with guilt, but with the gentle curiosity of someone who understands that awareness itself is healing. Because the moment you become aware of a limiting belief, you loosen its grip. You begin to see that it was never an absolute truth. It was simply a thought that had been repeated often enough to feel real. And once you see that, you can choose again. You can choose to focus on what expands you rather than what contracts you. You can choose to place your attention on the possibilities that exist beyond your past conditioning. You can choose to imagine a life aligned with your highest self rather than your old fears. And as you do this consistently, something remarkable begins unfolding. Synchronicities appear. People enter your life at exactly the right moment. Ideas arrive with unexpected clarity. Opportunities seem to emerge from directions you never anticipated. It can feel almost mysterious, as if the universe itself is quietly collaborating with your vision. But in truth, you have simply changed your focus, and the universe has responded as it always does. Faith, in its deepest sense, is not blind belief. It is the willingness to align your focus with what your soul knows is possible even before the physical evidence appears. When you focus on gratitude, the universe begins showing you more to be grateful for. When you focus on love, the universe begins reflecting love through unexpected encounters. When you focus on creativity, the universe begins offering new channels through which that creativity can express itself. And the most beautiful part of this process is that it does not require force. The ego believes that life must be controlled through effort, struggle, and constant defense. But the soul understands something different. The soul understands alignment. It understands that when your thoughts, your feelings, and your intentions begin harmonizing with the energy of possibility, life starts flowing with a kind of natural ease. Not because challenges disappear, but because you begin moving through them with a different consciousness. You stop asking, why is this happening to me? And instead you begin asking, what is life inviting me to become? Every experience becomes a mirror, revealing where your focus has been and where it can shift. If resentment appears, it invites forgiveness. If fear appears, it invites courage. If limitation appears, it invites imagination. And slowly, gently, you begin to realize that you are not a powerless participant in life's unfolding. You are a co-creator within it. This realization changes everything. Because once you understand that the universe responds to your focus, you begin treating your attention with reverence. You become more selective about the thoughts you entertain. You become more mindful of the stories you repeat. You become aware that every moment of attention is like planting a seed in the soil of reality. And seeds, given time and nourishment, always grow. So the question becomes beautifully simple. What kind of seeds are you planting today? Are you planting worry, or are you planting trust? Are you planting doubt, or are you planting belief? Are you planting resentment, or are you planting compassion? The universe does not rush the process, but it does honor it. It takes the seeds of your focus and nurtures them quietly until they begin appearing in the garden of your life. And when you begin to understand this deeply, you realize something profoundly liberating. You are not here to control the entire universe. You are here to choose your focus. That is your power. That is your creative authority. And it is more than enough. Because once your focus aligns with the wisdom of your soul, the universe begins arranging circumstances that reflect that alignment in ways your logical mind could never have planned. So today, right now, pause for a moment and feel the quiet presence of awareness within you. Notice the thoughts that pass through your mind like clouds across an open sky. You are not those clouds. You are the sky itself. And as the sky, you have the freedom to decide which clouds you give your attention to. Choose the ones that expand your heart. Choose the ones that remind you of your divine nature. Choose the ones that see possibility where others see limitation. Because the universe is always listening, always responding, always ready to reflect back to you the energy of your focus. And when your focus becomes rooted in love, gratitude, and faith in the unseen possibilities of life, something beautiful begins unfolding. You stop chasing the world, and the world begins gently meeting you. Opportunity finds you. Peace finds you. Abundance finds you, not because you demanded it, but because your consciousness became a space where those experiences naturally belong. So let your attention become sacred. Guard it with the same care you would give to the most precious treasure. Direct it toward the vision of the life you know is possible for you. And trust that the universe, in its quiet, infinite intelligence, is already beginning to respond. Because what you focus on, the universe will always faithfully begin to provide. And when you begin to truly understand this, not as a concept, but as a living experience within your own awareness, something inside you softens. The tension that once governed your life begins to dissolve because you no longer feel as though you are fighting the world. Instead, you realize you are participating in a vast, intelligent dance with it. Most of the stress that human beings carry comes from believing they must force life into submission. The ego whispers constantly that success must be chased, that happiness must be hunted down somewhere outside of you, that fulfillment lies just beyond the next achievement, the next possession, the next moment of recognition. But the soul speaks differently. The soul reminds you that life responds not to your struggle, but to your alignment. Think of a radio receiver searching for a signal. The music is already present in the airwaves, invisible but real, waiting to be received. Yet until the dial is tuned to the correct frequency, all you hear is noise. Your mind works in much the same way. When your focus is scattered among fear, resentment, and doubt, the signal of peace becomes difficult to hear. When your attention is fixed on what is missing, the abundance that already surrounds you becomes invisible. But the moment you shift the dial of your attention, when you begin focusing on gratitude, on purpose, on the quiet knowing that life supports your highest good, the signal changes. Clarity replaces confusion. Possibility replaces limitation. And suddenly you begin noticing things that were always there but hidden behind the fog of your former focus. A kind word from a stranger. An unexpected idea that solves a problem you have been carrying. A door opening in a place you never thought to look. These are not accidents. They are reflections of alignment. The universe, you see, is not simply a collection of random events. It is an intelligent field of interconnected energy. Every thought you hold interacts with this field in subtle but powerful ways. Your thoughts are not small. They are creative forces. This is why ancient spiritual traditions have always emphasized the importance of inner discipline. Not discipline in the harsh sense of control, but in the sacred sense of awareness. To be disciplined in consciousness simply means to notice what you are giving your attention to. It means asking yourself, gently but honestly, whether the thoughts you are feeding are nourishing the life you wish to experience. Many people live for years focusing on what they fear. They focus on the possibility of failure. They focus on the opinions of others. They focus on old wounds that replay endlessly in the theater of memory. And without realizing it, they begin recreating those very experiences again and again. Not because they deserve suffering, but because the universe faithfully mirrors the focus they maintain. Yet the moment you become aware of this pattern, you reclaim your power. Because awareness introduces choice, and choice introduces transformation. You can choose to redirect your focus towards something that expands your soul. You can choose to imagine possibilities that your past has never shown you. You can choose to believe that life is not conspiring against you, but quietly working with you. And the beautiful thing about focus is that it does not require perfection. Your mind will wander, doubts will appear, old habits will occasionally resurface. This is simply part of being human. But every time you notice your attention drifting toward fear and gently bring it back to trust, you strengthen a new pathway within your consciousness. Over time, this new pathway becomes natural. Your mind begins seeking possibilities rather than problems. Your heart begins expecting kindness rather than conflict. And life begins reflecting this expectation in ways that feel almost miraculous. People often ask, but how do I maintain this focus when the world around me seems chaotic? The answer is beautifully simple. Return to the present moment, because the present moment is the only place where your focus actually has power. The past exists only as memory. The future exists only as imagination. But right here, in this breath, in this moment of awareness, you possess the extraordinary ability to choose where your attention will rest. And this choice repeated again and again, becomes the quiet architect of your life. When you wake in the morning, before the noise of the world rushes in, pause for a moment and set your focus. Decide what kind of energy you wish to carry into the day. Will it be gratitude? Will it be curiosity? Will it be compassion? Whatever you choose, hold it gently within your awareness as you move through the hours ahead. And notice how life begins to reflect it back to you. The person who offers you unexpected kindness, the moment of inspiration that appears while you are walking quietly, the feeling of peace that arises for no apparent reason other than the fact that your mind has stopped resisting life. This is the universe responding, not dramatically, not all at once, but steadily and faithfully, like sunlight responding to the opening of a window. And there will be moments, of course, when challenges arise, moments when things do not unfold according to your expectations. But even here, your focus remains your greatest ally. You can focus on the obstacle and feel trapped by it, or you can focus on the possibility hidden within the experience. Every difficulty carries a hidden invitation. Sometimes it invites patience. Sometimes it invites courage. Sometimes it invites the release of an identity that no longer serves the person you are becoming. When you approach life with this understanding, you stop labeling experiences as purely good or bad. Instead, you begin seeing them as teachers. And teachers arrive precisely when your soul is ready for their lesson. This perspective transforms even the most ordinary moments. Waiting in line becomes an opportunity to practice presence. A disagreement becomes an opportunity to practice compassion. A disappointment becomes an opportunity to redirect your focus towards something even greater. And gradually, you begin to feel a quiet confidence emerging from within. Not the confidence of the ego, which depends on external validation, but the confidence of alignment, the knowing that you are participating consciously in the unfolding of your life, the knowing that every thought you nurture is shaping the field of possibilities around you, the knowing that you are not separate from the universe, but an expression of its creative intelligence. When you truly absorb this truth, something extraordinary happens. You stop searching for proof that life supports you. You begin expecting it. And expectation itself becomes a powerful force, because what you expect, you prepare yourself to notice. And what you notice, you strengthen. If you expect kindness, you begin seeing kindness everywhere. If you expect opportunity, you begin recognizing opportunities that others overlook. If you expect abundance, you begin appreciating the countless ways abundance already exists in your life. The universe does not respond to desperation. It responds to alignment. It responds to the quiet certainty that what you focus on is already in the process of becoming. So let your focus become an act of faith, not faith in something distant or abstract, but faith in the living intelligence that flows through you and through every aspect of existence. This intelligence knows how to grow forests from tiny seeds. It knows how to guide rivers across entire continents. And it knows how to guide your life toward experiences that reflect the deepest intentions of your soul. But it can only work with the focus you provide. So choose wisely. Choose gently. Choose with love. Focus on the beauty that still exists in the world. Focus on the possibilities that still live within your dreams. Focus on the quiet voice inside you that whispers again and again that you are part of something vast and sacred. And as you do, you will begin to see that life is not something you must conquer. It is something you are invited to co-create. Your focus is the brush. Your thoughts are the colors. And the canvas of the universe stretches infinitely before you. Paint with courage. Paint with gratitude. Paint with the knowing that every moment of conscious attention sends a signal into the infinite. And the infinite, in its quiet wisdom, will always answer. Because what you focus on, with sincerity, with belief, with the calm certainty of a soul that remembers its power, the universe will continue to bring into form, again and again, in ways more beautiful than the mind alone could ever imagine. There comes a moment in every human life, sometimes quietly and sometimes like a thunderclap across the sky of the soul, when a question rises from somewhere deeper than the mind. It is not a question that comes from fear or ambition or competition. It is a question that emerges from the eternal part of you that has always known the truth. And the question is simple: who am I really? Not the name you were given, not the body you inhabit, not the story you repeat about your past, your struggles, your limitations, your victories. Those are temporary costumes in the grand theater of existence. The real you, the eternal you, the silent, aware presence within that is something far greater. That is the spark of the divine itself. And when you begin to understand this truth, even faintly, your life begins to transform in ways that feel almost miraculous. Because the moment you recognize that the power of creation does not live outside of you but flows through you, everything changes. Your thoughts change. Your perceptions change. Your relationship with the world shifts in a profound and beautiful way. For most of our lives, we have been taught to search for power somewhere outside ourselves. We are told that wealth comes from effort alone, that happiness depends on circumstances, that success belongs to those who struggle the hardest and compete the fiercest. But this belief system keeps humanity trapped in a state of spiritual amnesia. We forget who we are. You are not merely a biological organism trying to survive on a spinning rock in space. You are a divine expression of the creative intelligence that formed the galaxies. The same invisible intelligence that causes a seed to become a forest, that moves the tides of the ocean, that orchestrates the silent dance of atoms, that intelligence lives within you. Think about that for a moment. The same force that keeps the stars suspended in the sky also flows through your thoughts. And when you begin to align your thinking with that higher intelligence, you begin to experience a new kind of richness, a richness that has nothing to do with accumulation and everything to do with alignment. To think and grow rich with the God within you is not merely about financial prosperity. It is about awakening to the infinite creative capacity that is already present inside your consciousness. It is about realizing that your thoughts are not just random mental chatter, they are creative instruments. Every thought you hold is like a seed planted in the invisible soil of the universe. Plant seeds of fear, and fear grows. Plant seeds of resentment, and bitterness multiplies. But plant seeds of faith, possibility, love, and abundance, and watch how life begins to reorganize itself around those frequencies. The universe responds not to what you say you want, but to what you consistently believe. This is why two people can walk through the same world and experience completely different realities. One person sees obstacles, scarcity, and limitation everywhere they go. The other sees opportunities, guidance, and abundance appearing in the most unexpected places. The difference is not luck. The difference is consciousness. When you change the way you look at the world you look at begins to change. But here's the deeper truth. The transformation does not begin with trying to manipulate circumstances. It begins by dissolving the illusion of separation between you and the source of all creation. You see, the ego wants you to believe that you are separate, isolated, small. The ego whispers constantly, you are not enough, you must prove yourself, you must compete, you must struggle. But the soul knows something entirely different. The soul knows that you were born from abundance. The soul knows that you are connected to a field of infinite possibility. The soul knows that the creative power of the universe flows through you as naturally as breath flows through your lungs. When you begin to listen to the voice of the soul instead of the noise of the ego, your life begins to shift in subtle but undeniable ways. You stop chasing worthiness and start recognizing it. You stop forcing outcomes and begin allowing them. You realize that the richest people in the world are not those who accumulate the most things, but those who live in harmony with the divine intelligence within them. There is a quiet law operating in the universe, a law that mystics and sages have understood for centuries. What you believe about yourself determines the energy you project into the world, and that energy attracts experiences that mirror it back to you. If you believe you are powerless, life will confirm that belief. If you believe you are limited, circumstances will appear to reinforce that idea. But when you begin to believe, truly believe, that the creative intelligence of the universe lives within you, something extraordinary begins to happen. Your thinking becomes more expansive. Your imagination becomes more daring. Your intuition becomes stronger. You begin to see possibilities where others see barriers. And gradually, almost mysteriously, the outer conditions of your life begin to align with your inner state. Opportunities appear. People arrive. Ideas emerge. Doors open that you never even knew existed. Not because you forced them open, but because you aligned yourself with the creative flow of life. The universe is not a place of scarcity. Scarcity is a belief, and beliefs can be changed. Think about a river flowing through a valley. The river does not struggle to move forward. It does not push against the rocks with frustration. It simply flows, adapting, curving, finding new paths when obstacles appear. This is how life moves when you are aligned with the God within you. You become like the river. You move with intelligence rather than resistance. You create with inspiration rather than desperation. You attract with resonance rather than force. But to reach this state, you must release one of the most deeply rooted illusions of the ego, the belief that you are separate from the source of your own power. The truth is astonishingly simple. You do not need to become divine. You already are. The divine intelligence that created this universe did not make a mistake when it created you. It did not accidentally give you imagination. It did not accidentally give you consciousness. Those gifts are evidence of your true nature. Every great creation that has ever existed began as a thought inside the mind of a human being who dared to believe in something invisible before it became visible. Think about that. Everything around you, every building, every invention, every piece of art, every technological breakthrough once existed only as a thought. Thought is the birthplace of reality. And when you realize that your thoughts are extensions of divine creative intelligence, you begin to treat them with reverence. You stop feeding your mind with doubt and begin nourishing it with possibility. You stop rehearsing your fears and begin envisioning your potential. You stop identifying with the voice of limitation and begin listening to the whisper of inspiration that comes from your higher self. That whisper is always there. It is the quiet voice that says you are capable of more. It is the gentle nudge that encourages you to take a step even when the path ahead is not fully visible. It is the deep knowing that reminds you that you were not born to merely survive, you were born to create. But creation requires belief. And belief requires awareness. Most people move through life asleep to their own power. They allow their past experiences, their upbringing, their fears, and the opinions of others to define the boundaries of what they think is possible. But the soul has no such boundaries. The soul is infinite. The soul is timeless. And the soul knows that the only real prison is the one constructed by our own thoughts. So imagine for a moment that you release the old stories you have been telling yourself. Imagine that you stopped identifying with every failure, every disappointment, every moment when things did not go the way you hoped. Imagine that you saw those experiences not as evidence of limitation, but as stepping stones toward deeper awareness. What would become possible then? What would you create? How would you think? How would you live? When you begin to ask these questions sincerely, you activate something extraordinary within yourself. You activate the creative partnership between your human mind and the divine intelligence that flows through it. This partnership is the true secret of abundance. It is not about manipulating the world. It is about aligning with the creative field of consciousness that gives birth to the world. When you live from this awareness, your actions become inspired rather than forced. Your work becomes an expression of your inner vision rather than a desperate attempt to prove your worth. And the irony is beautiful. The more you release your obsession with proving yourself, the more powerful your creations become, because they are no longer coming from fear. They are coming from truth. The richest life you can ever live is the life where your thoughts, your beliefs, and your actions are aligned with the divine presence within you. That is the wealth that cannot be taken away. That is the wealth that expands endlessly. That is the wealth that radiates outward into every area of your existence. And once you taste that kind of richness, the richness of purpose, clarity, and inner peace, you realize that the external forms of abundance are simply reflections of a deeper internal alignment. Money becomes energy. Opportunities become expressions of consciousness. Success becomes a natural byproduct of living in harmony with the God within you. So begin today with a simple shift. Observe your thoughts. Notice the stories you repeat about what is possible and what is not. And whenever you hear the voice of limitation arise, gently remind yourself of the truth. You are not separate from the creative intelligence of the universe. You are an expression of it. And when you think from that awareness, when you act from that awareness, when you live from that awareness, you begin to experience a level of richness that transcends anything the ego could ever imagine. Because the greatest wealth you can ever discover is not something you acquire. It is something you awaken. It has been within you all along. The God within you has always been thinking. Now it is time for you to think with it. And when you begin to think with that deeper intelligence, you start to notice something remarkable about the nature of your own mind. You begin to see that most of the thoughts you once believed were you were never truly yours at all. They were inherited voices, echoes of teachers, parents, cultural expectations, fears passed from one generation to another. These voices form what we call the ego, a kind of psychological program designed to keep you small, cautious, and constantly seeking approval. The ego thrives on comparison. It measures, judges, and divides the world into winners and losers, success and failure, enough and not enough. It is always asking the same restless questions. How do I measure up? What do others think of me? Am I ahead or behind? But the soul does not ask those questions. The soul already knows. The soul knows that your value does not come from external validation. It does not fluctuate with applause or criticism. It does not rise or fall with the numbers in a bank account or the opinions of strangers. Your value is inherent because the life force that animates you is the same life force that animates the universe. When you understand this deeply, not intellectually, but spiritually, you begin to detach from the ego's endless demands. You no longer chase worthiness because you recognize that you were never lacking it. This realization changes everything about how you approach life. Instead of asking, what can I get from the world? You begin to ask, what can I create within it? Instead of living in reaction to circumstances, you begin to live from intention. And intention is one of the most powerful forces in the universe. Wayne Dyer often spoke of intention not as something you do, but as a field of energy you align with. Imagine an invisible ocean of creative intelligence, constantly flowing, constantly expanding, constantly generating life. When your thoughts are aligned with love, possibility, and purpose, you enter into harmony with that ocean. You become a conscious participant in creation. Think of a musician tuning an instrument. When the strings are out of tune, every note sounds strained and discordant. But when the instrument is tuned properly, the music flows effortlessly. The same is true of your consciousness. When your mind is tuned to fear, resentment, and doubt, your life feels like a constant struggle. Opportunities slip away. Relationships become tense. Creativity dries up. But when your mind is tuned to gratitude, vision, and trust, something extraordinary happens. Life begins to feel like music again. Ideas start arriving at unexpected moments during a walk, in the quiet of the morning, in the stillness just before sleep. You feel guided rather than lost, inspired rather than pressured. And perhaps the most beautiful transformation of all is that your relationship with time begins to change. The ego lives in two places, the past and the future. It replays old wounds, regrets, and mistakes, or it projects fears and anxieties about what might happen next. It rarely rests in the present moment, but the divine presence within you exists only in the now. The now is where creativity lives. The now is where intuition speaks. The now is where the energy of life is most alive. When you bring your awareness fully into the present moment, you step out of the mental noise of the ego and into the quiet clarity of the soul. And in that clarity, you discover something profound. The future you have been chasing is actually created by the thoughts you hold right now. Every moment is a seed. Every thought is a direction. Every belief is a blueprint for the reality that will unfold. This is why thinking and growing rich with the God within you is not about forcing success into existence. It is about cultivating a consciousness that naturally produces it. You begin by asking yourself a simple but powerful question. What kind of thoughts would a divine being hold about life? Would they dwell on fear? Would they constantly criticize themselves? Would they expect failure before they even begin? Of course not. A divine consciousness sees possibility everywhere. It sees potential in every challenge. It trusts the unfolding of life. And because the same divine consciousness exists within you, you have the ability to adopt that perspective at any moment. You can choose to see yourself not as a struggling individual trying to control an unpredictable world, but as a creative expression of the universe itself. This shift in perception is subtle, but its consequences are enormous. When you begin to see yourself as a creator rather than a victim, your entire relationship with life transforms. You stop asking, why is this happening to me? And begin asking, what is this experience inviting me to become? Every difficulty becomes a teacher. Every setback becomes an opportunity for growth. Every unexpected twist in your path becomes part of a larger unfolding that your soul already understands. This does not mean that challenges disappear. Life will always include moments of uncertainty, loss, and change. But when you are rooted in the awareness of your divine nature, those moments no longer define you. They refine you. They shape you into a deeper, wiser version of yourself. And as you grow in this awareness, you begin to notice another remarkable truth about abundance. Abundance is not something you chase. It is something you allow. The universe is inherently abundant. Look at nature. A single tree can produce thousands of seeds. A single cloud can release billions of raindrops. Life constantly generates more life. Scarcity exists primarily in human thinking. When you believe there is not enough opportunity, not enough success, not enough love, you create a mental barrier that blocks the natural flow of abundance. But when you trust that the creative intelligence of the universe is unlimited, you begin to relax into life's flow. You become generous with your ideas. You become generous with your kindness. You become generous with your faith in what is possible. And generosity has a beautiful way of multiplying itself. What you give expands. What you focus on grows. What you believe becomes visible. This is why the most powerful investment you will ever make is the investment you place in your own consciousness. Feed your mind with thoughts that uplift rather than diminish. Spend time in silence so you can hear the quiet guidance of your inner wisdom. Surround yourself with people who remind you of your potential rather than your limitations. And most importantly, cultivate gratitude, because gratitude is the gateway to abundance. When you appreciate what already exists in your life, you send a powerful message to the universe. I recognize the gifts I have been given, and recognition amplifies creation. Gratitude opens the door for more blessings to enter. The truth is that wealth in its deepest form is not measured in numbers. It is measured in awareness. It is measured in the depth of your peace. It is measured in the freedom you feel when you know that your identity is not limited by external circumstances. A person who lives in harmony with the divine intelligence within them can walk through life with a sense of quiet confidence that no external event can shake. They know that their creativity is endless. They know that their purpose is unfolding. They know that the universe is not working against them, but through them. And when you reach that level of awareness, the phrase "think and grow rich" takes on an entirely new meaning. You grow rich in wisdom. You grow rich in love. You grow rich in creativity. You grow rich in the kind of inner peace that money alone could never purchase. And yet, ironically, when you reach that level of inner richness, the external forms of abundance often follow naturally. Because the world responds to the energy you embody. When you radiate confidence rooted in spiritual awareness, people feel it. When you create from inspiration rather than desperation, your work carries a different kind of power. When you trust the divine intelligence guiding your life, your decisions become clearer and more aligned. Opportunities begin to recognize you. Doors open in ways that once seemed impossible. Not because you forced them open, but because your consciousness has become a magnet for possibility. And this is the great secret that so many people overlook. The true source of prosperity is not outside of you. It is within you. It is the infinite creative intelligence that has been whispering to you since the day you were born. It is the quiet voice that tells you to dream bigger, love deeper, forgive more freely, and trust more fully. That voice is the voice of the God within you. Listen to it, honor it, think with it. And as you do, you will discover that the richness you have been seeking was never something you had to chase. It was something you were always meant to awaken.